Hey guys, I'm Alex.
And I'm Drew.
And today on the Two Man Comic Book Club podcast, we're keeping on with Mr. Miracle number 2 and 3 by Tom King and Mitch Gerads. Let's go. I have a confession. This is preemptive to the What You've Been Reading, Yo. I don't have a lot to talk about. I've been a very naughty boy.
You know what?
What?
I have even less.
You have even less than that?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see.
Are we just going to jump straight to it?
I'm just trying to...
Hey, Alex, what you been reading, yo?
I guess we're going for it. I have read a lot about comics, but not a bunch of comics besides the Mr. Miracle books that we are covering today. I say that I've been trying to, before I fully commit into the New 52 thing that I was doing, making sure, that I'm not going to read a bunch of stories. They're like, no, seriously, don't waste your time with these.
Hashtag Alex and Drew read the New 52.
Yeah. If you're in the Discord and you want an entire channel dedicated to Alex and Drew read the New 52, TM, let us know. We're seriously thinking about doing that and just kind of reacting to this massive 5-ish, 6-ish year arc of stories for DC, just so we get some more context and continuity for those characters, because I for sure don't know as much about the DC characters as I need to, and I feel like even if the continuity has been rebooted maybe twice since then.
No, I just thought, you remember Rebooten.
Yeah, I do remember
The DC Comics has been rebooted.
Yeah.
Rebooted. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well as
It's only Daniel Hodge, if he
Yeah.
were in here, would get that reference.
And Kenneth.
Ah,
Yeah.
true.
The one who did it.
Yeah.
I think he jumped over a table in the band room while saying Rebooten.
That's hilarious. Good times. I was
Freebootin'. Go find the Tom Sawyer musical.
You know what's crazy is that it's likely that was like a decade ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it was more than a decade ago.
More than a decade since that happened.
We're
I'm sure
old.
Tori's over here like, what are these morons talking about
Freebootin'
right now?
was a piece of music from the Tom Sawyer live-action musical movie. And I think at some point, the Berryville Band marched a Tom Sawyer musical marching show because they had 3 pieces from that musical in the library.
I think I know this story. I think.
Oh, maybe I've told you.
I think I've been told this story. Yeah, because it's starting to sound familiar. I'm like, why do I know
this?
anything about the Tom Sawyer musical?
You do feel a little bit of shame when you're aware, like, I'm aware of this.
Except that we ended up marching it in the parade. We marched Freebootin' in the parade multiple times. Freebootin', kicking up our feet in the sand. Woo! Freebootin', living off the fat of the land. Yeah, there's a whole song for it.
TM.
We need to... me and Hodge used to sing this and play it on recorders while driving the gator around the campus. And the football coaches would see it and probably think very little of us.
Yeah.
But we were having a blast.
Right. Yeah.
All right. What were we talking about? I
what I've
completely
been
derailed you.
Yeah, what I've
with
been reading.
Freebootin'.
Yeah, it's all right. It happens. That's really it. I've done a bunch of articles on Comic Book Herald.
So you're just prepping for this.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to really go down the rabbit hole of Alex and Drew read the New 52. I also started coding though, so I've been trying to dabble maybe with some software development, more front end web developer, I guess, but possibly taking a pretty aggressive stab at that. What about you? What have you been reading, yo?
I finished reading Eat and Run, Scott Jurick's. I read it years ago, but ultra runner guy who went vegan and everything and won the Western States 100 6 or 7 times in a row, all kinds of crazy things. And as soon as I finished that, I started another book about insurance adjusters in space.
Nice.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's actually called I read the title and I was like, "This is." It basically says that's not the title. I can't remember what it is, but it was.
Is this a comic book or just a book?
This is just a book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because hey, you know what comics I've read? Nothing.
Nilch.
I reread, or rather, re-skimmed Mr. Miracle 2 and 3 last night before I drifted off
to be fair,
snooze land.
This is a really busy week for you and a semi-busy week for me. Yeah. So we're just like trying to find out when we could record this week.
I feel bad because for several weeks in a row, I read 6,000 books.
Yeah.
So I haven't read 6,000 books, but I got my first comic book in the mail in eons yesterday. I mentioned Ryan's podcast, Cosmic Campfire. He had the owners, runners, whatever of what's it called? Covenant Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the group I think I just went through and ordered everything they had because it was like 15 books. And I may have ordered them in 2 different times for some reason because only Ether #1 came in.
Mm-hmm.
But there should have been a lot more. Or maybe it's coming from different locations. I haven't read it because I was in the middle of printing a bunch of stuff, opening up my new printer, who Alex named Chonk.
Yeah, it's a big boy.
Okay, picture a normal size printer that's like a little bit bigger than a size of letter size paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a couple years ago, I got an oversized printer. Picture 2 letter size papers back to back, and then a little bit bigger. Well, now picture 4 of those in a block, and then a little bit bigger. Like I have this printer that's 2 feet on each side, weighs 100 pounds, and is currently parked on my floor because I had to order a workbench just to accommodate the weight and girth.
Does it actually weigh 100 pounds or pretty close to it, or is it?
I think that's what it said on the shipping manifest,
yeah.
But the box itself says like the box weighs 94 pounds. But
okay.
The unit itself inside weighs 86 pounds.
Wow.
Still, that's a
beefy.
I ended up finally getting usage out of my skateboard that I bought a while back because I managed to lift up one edge and shove the skateboard underneath it to roll the box into my office so that I could completely dismantle the box because that's the only way I could scoot it around without throwing my back out.
That's hilarious.
But the printer works, so that's what I've been reading, yo.
Printer manuals. What about you, Tori? What have you been reading, yo?
To bring a balance to our record today, I decided to not read the No, I just totally forgot. I have
been reading Mr. Miracle.
Sweet Tooth. I got that at Barnes & Noble the other day.
Nice. Did you get like all of it or like the first volume or?
First 2 volumes.
Cool.
One thing I don't like is that it has the cover art on the first one is a picture of the Netflix mini series.
Really?
I hate when they do that.
Yeah. Katie also, when she just books in general, when it's like the movie cover, like we'll make a trip to go get the book, and if they only have the movie cover, she won't get it. She's like, not putting that up on my bookshelf.
I fully agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I also need to, there's just more. I'm going to start reading again before bed. That was the key right there. Just knock out a few issues every day, If you read 3 a week before, or 3 a day before bed, it's 21 comics in a week. It's pretty good.
You can make it through 3 comics while you're laying in bed. I make it through like 1.5, and then I start getting drowsy, and I lay over, and then I fall asleep, and then I wake up, and then I can't go back to sleep for 2 hours.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't get in bed only when I'm tired. We'll like get in bed to like kind of just settle in for the night, but we'll like sit up. She's been watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? I have been just doing
Ryan
mindless
Stiles
scrolling,
and
probably.
Colin Mockery, gems.
And Wayne Brady.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good,
those are just the 2
time.
names that came to my mind.
Right. But I typically am able to knock out 2 or 3 a night if I just remember to do it. And there's plenty to read.
You know what? Our trivia rounds are like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Where the what is it? The
questions are made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah. The questions are made up, but the points definitely don't matter because I can't even remember what the points are.
Yeah. I do remember the year winning right now. I happen to remember this time. 1-0.
Loser. I'm just kidding. I felt really bad as soon as I did that, even though it was a joke. I'm sorry, 2-man audience.
We try not to be a violent podcast, but here we are. Anything else before we jump into some Mr. Miracle?
Join our Discord.
Oh, yeah. Let's do some call outs. Yeah, some call to action, people. If you are watching this on YouTube, there's a little button down there that says subscribe.
I think it's going to be right. No, that's backwards. I don't know which direction this is. It should be right here.
Somewhere below us, it says subscribe. Go ahead and hit that. And there's a thumbs up button that works pretty good, too, that I hear the YouTube algorithm is favoring quite a bit right now. We put a lot of work into making these videos, and just setting up takes time in general. And then while we do love reading comics, like there's a little bit of a sense of like, oh, we're taking the thing we like and making it a job. It would mean a lot if you would just share this content, subscribe wherever you like to listen to it, share it with a friend. You can get us anywhere there's on podcasts. Of course, you probably know that if you're listening to us right now. But just sharing it and leaving reviews on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you can leave reviews just goes a long way to actually helping us keep doing this. Also, join the Discord. That's where we're getting a lot of action right now. Lots of friendly comic book discussion. We saw Sarah join today. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I did. I was driving, so I haven't actually read it yet. But welcome, Sarah.
Yes.
And I'm truly, I love it whenever people join because they get to describe their mundane superpower.
She had a good one.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet. Like I said,
I'm actually weak to it, so I won't spoil it. Yeah.
Wait. Oh, wait, no, I was thinking 166 beats a minute?
No.
Oh, that's not your weakness.
Yeah.
That's your strength.
Yeah.
Can you give us 166 right here?
Ooh. Do you have a Met handy?
Yes.
Let's see if I can do it.
This is the content you crave.
Here we go.
Just keep going. He doesn't even see that. He's perfectly on it.
Nice.
I wonder if you could even see that.
I wonder if it might have been overexposed.
Well, I think it.
I'll
I think it worked.
take your word for it, maybe.
I don't know how to turn the sound on.
Just the switch on the right, left. That was pretty close if it wasn't it.
Captain 166, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll be here all episode.
Stop it. Stop.
I wonder how many people clicked off just now. They're done. All right, now that the real fans are still here.
Yeah.
Oh, this episode brought to you by Zevia Cola.
Yeah, let's get some sponsorships going.
Yeah.
I guess we're
Torrance,
manual
if you could
focused.
get a sponsor from anybody, who would it be?
Taco Bell.
Solid.
Eat Fresh. I'm just kidding. That's not Taco Bell. But yeah, that'd be great. Like, whether it was a gift card or just like, I wish that you could get a level of Taco Bell sponsorship that just somehow every Taco Bell everywhere knows your order. Like, that you just roll up and you're like, I'm here. And they're like, all right, pull around, sir. And you pull forward and they've got your spicy potato soft taco and your bean burrito with no onions or red sauce and your Sierra Mist if you feel like it.
If you're feeling
misty.
misty.
Gotta go Baja Blast if you're at Taco Bell.
I don't think I've ever had a Baja Blast.
I have, but I feel like I did some hard drugs every time I drink one. I'm just like buzzing every single time.
Is that a Mountain Dew?
Yeah, it's a Mountain Dew product.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I don't like Mountain Dew, but I like a Baja Blast.
Mountain Dew has caffeine, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some of those more light colored beverages don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that Sprite or Sierra Mist does. I think 7-Up does, maybe.
No, 7-Up's whole thing was that they don't have caffeine.
Okay, well, I got that backwards.
Backwards.
Backwards. Does Mellow Yellow, I think, has it.
I think so.
Maybe it's if it's yellow tinted. Like Mountain Dew, Mellow Yellow, Baja Blast.
Mellow Yellow is to Mountain Dew what Pib is to Dr. Pepper.
They call me Mellow Yellow.
Quite right.
All right. We've got a comic book or two
Oh,
to
yeah.
discuss.
I forgot that this is a comic book podcast, not a printers and Taco Bell podcast.
If only. We're going to keep on keeping on with Mr. Miracle issues 2 and 3. I'm not going to say the whole creative team. If you listen to the last episode, we got them today. Just the main guys on this are Tom King and Mitch Gerads doing writing and art, respectively.
I have one thing.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? It was a little Easter egg for viewers. Not an Easter egg. I don't know why I called it that. Have you noticed a lot of these, like Clayton Cowles, and that's the main one that I'm. Is he the one that did the lettering?
He does
in this?
letters for a lot of comic
Does he
books.
do it in this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you notice Marvel always says VC's Clayton Cowles?
Yeah.
DC just says Clayton Cowles. I'm wondering if that's just a thing. Like, is it like VCs mean virtual calligrapher on loan from DC type thing, or is it just like that's what they call it in Marvel?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Because yeah, it's just on DC. I don't think I've ever seen VCs for DC.
I get it. Yeah, I'm not sure. That is a good point. I also see a lot more crossover, it feels like. Maybe I don't want to say if there are any of you letterers listening that your job is easy at all. But
no, lettering can make or break my immersion into the,
for sure.
the thing.
Yeah, but I do wonder if there's more flexibility, or if comparatively they have a little more time to jump back and forth on projects. I'm just curious. That may not be the truth at all. They may be swamped because they have ability.
These two, Tom King and Mitch Gerads, they kind of have a thing going.
Yeah.
And did Clayton Cowles do Strange Adventures?
I don't know. It's around here somewhere, probably on that stack of books over there. Be it there. There's Strange Adventures. I haven't read that yet, so no spoil. Actually, yes, I have.
Clayton Cowles.
Clayton Cowles.
Yeah, he did.
He did Strange Adventures, so maybe they...
I think it's... Because I've noticed, like, as I've been listening... Oh, God. Sorry, Tony. As I've been listening more about on the creator side, it's like, yeah, you get a little team. Like, a lot of times they travel together because a letterer knows how to accentuate the art. So
it makes sense.
I wasn't surprised to see that it's the same people working together.
Yeah, they just added your boy Doc Shaner to do some cool art stuff. Wrapping up, you should go back and listen to episode 1 or issue 1 that we covered. Was episode 70, correct?
Yes.
Is it 71? Yeah. Lots of cool stuff. We talked about a little bit just how, in general, the New Gods and the Fourth World and all this stuff that Jack Kirby created when he went to DC, it's a lot to take on, especially if you don't have much context. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware that they exist at all. They're some really cool stories, some really rich history, but it's not the stuff that typically pops up with Batman and everything. Are you admitting to not knowing, or do you have a question? Yeah. Okay. Boy with the hair.
Yeah.
Huh?
Do you think that they celebrate Fourth Meal a lot in Fourth World?
It seems likely, but I can't confirm as I've not yet been there.
I mean, I haven't seen any restaurants in Fourth World, but Taco Bells are everywhere. So probably there.
Yeah, probably.
I wish I remembered what Taco Bell's slogan was, because I would have put it in right there. I was going to say
Live Moss.
Live Moss. I was going to say ring the bell, because they have the bell.
They keep changing it because it was also Kyoto Taco Bell.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Yeah. And Think Outside the Bun.
Yeah, that's right.
Fully versed on Taco Bell history.
Yeah. This is much more content than the What You've Been Reading, yo.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just had to make that joke.
Yeah, it's all right.
Fourth World, Fourth Meal. I mean,
that's what you're here for.
Yeah.
End of episode 1. Scott and Barda get called off to war. The High Father is dead, who is in charge of New Genesis, and they're just sent off to the war. We don't really see what's going on there. So, again, I'm not going to recap the entire first issue. That's what episode 70 was for. So go back and listen to that, or you're going to be really lost. You might even be lost even if you go listen to that, though. So if you are in our Discord and you haven't checked it out yet, I put that link of the DC Comics 101, like history of the New Gods. It's a real quick read, but you'll have so much more context of what actually is going on in this story if you just get a little background on who all these characters are and why they're important. Very useful for me even. So we opened up on this first page and we just see this Is there a name for these? And also, are these the things that we saw flying around in
I'm
the
90%
nightmare scenes of Justice League?
sure these are like Darkseid's flying monkey
Flying
minions. I don't know what they're called.
evil things.
But yeah, they're whenever we start reading New 52 Justice League,
Yeah,
boom,
cool.
we're going to see these guys.
Yeah, so they're just like Darkseid's bug minion army thing that he always has flying around attacking people. So we see one of them, and it's literally like eating the flesh of something. We can't really tell. We assume it's a new Genesis soldier, and it's making all these gross noises, and then suddenly its head gets blown off, and right where the head used to be, we can see far behind Scott is back there.
Bazoom.
Yeah. And he just blasted this thing's head off. And then I'm just going to kind of like generally talk about these next panels. It's a lot of just Scott going through now that he's in this war fighting for New Genesis and just going wherever he's being told, but he's making a point as he's getting his commands from the High Father in what's the word, the phrase I'm looking for? He's like sitting in for the High Father. I guess it's officially him now.
I don't remember.
I guess we can back up a little bit just to say that the whole reason that the two sides of Fourth World, being New Genesis and Apokolips, are like on at least a stalemate or a ceasefire is that they traded sons. Darkseid and Highfather traded their son. Highfather's son being Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, and Darkseid's son being Orion. That's correct, right? Yeah, I'm not saying that wrong. I'm still memorizing all these names. But so Scott was supposed to be the next in line to be the new High Father, whenever that happens. And now that he was traded and he had this like battered and bruised childhood, he was tortured, and it was not as good as if he would have lived with his own father. He's kind of resenting. We get a little bit that Orion is the one calling the shots for New Genesis and not Scott. So every time Orion sends him messages like, we've got intel that, the Apokolips army is going to be over here. I need you to get there and take out their units as fast as possible. He's like, okay, Orion. And he's expecting, Orion, that is expecting, yes, High Father, or whatever thing the protocol would be. And he's kind of letting it slide. But we just kind of go over and over, and the fights get more and more intense. And we just see how good Scott is at his job. Like, he's obviously brought into this war for a reason. And he just keeps screaming.
I have a question real quick. Maybe things you've heard. I don't know. So whenever he's escaping, like, I can't remember if it's later in this book. It's just kind of like passing conversation or what. But like, he makes a comment, I really am escaping. Like, when he says that, is he meaning like he's not using magic? Like, he's truly just using his wits and,
I think that
and like human type
that.
things. Okay.
Yeah, I think that a lot of inspiration from him would be like, what if Harry Houdini was a superhero and you could turn that dial up to 11?
But he's still like, he uses the magic and his powers when he needs to, but he doesn't let it taint the purity of his
craft.
Escaping.
Yeah, of his art.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still a new god. He still has super strength and all this awesome stuff, but he actually can't escape from anything, including death, as we found out in the last episode. But anyway, he's going through, and he's just literally going area to area on this planet that he's on, and he's taking out, and he just keeps saying, for New Genesis, and we get a sense pretty early on that he's not doing this because Orion asked him to. He's doing this for this planet, or this side of Fourth World that abandoned him, which is kind of a heavy thing, and he just keeps saying, for New Genesis, for New Genesis. And the very last panel, the bottom right corner of page 8,
Right here.
he just screams for New Genesis, and he's just covered in alien blood. And then we get to some nice comic relief stuff. I'll let Drew talk about this one.
So I guess they're not in their home anymore.
Right.
They are over in New Genesis, but Scott and Barda live on Earth, so they're just visiting. And he's covered in this goo.
Yeah, alien blood and guts.
And he's like, they just go on and like, how does the shower work? Like, and they're like, how would I know? It's like, there's no knobs, no water. And basically they go on, and at some point Barda's like, ask the mother box to turn it on. And they say, and the mother's like, apparently it is on. And he's like, what? Yeah. Really? Am I clean?
Yeah. And there's some funny panels in here. And
then eventually he comes out and he is clean. And she's like, all right, I'm going to go take a shower. And he's like, how do you turn it off? And he's like, or turn it on. He's like, well, I don't know, but I didn't turn it off.
If that helps.
So apparently it's like, it makes me think of like Star Trek, they have sonic showers
Yeah.
that just sonically vibrate you
Mhm.
clean. So I think it must be something like that.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was funny, kind of
Well,
an insight to their relationship.
There's
And
also a nice moment here that this reminded me of. This is kind of a deep cut if you didn't watch Sylvester Stallone 90s era action films. Have you guys seen Demolition Man with Wesley Snipes?
long
Isn't
time
that
ago.
where Taco Bell wins the
Taco Bell, that's funny. Taco Bell does win.
the fast
Every
food
restaurant
war?
is Taco Bell. That's funny. Timely. I did not mean for that connection to be made, but here we are. So in that
Taco Bell is.
Yeah, that's funny. There's your tag. I'll just summarize that movie. It's like early 2000s or something, and Sylvester Stallone is a cop, but he accidentally kills a lot of people when taking out this bad guy, so he gets like frozen. That's his jail sentence. He gets frozen in time. The guy he was trying to take out also gets frozen. He breaks out of his freezing thing, so in the future is so peaceful that the new cops can't handle him, so they got to bring an old cop out of frozen, whatever. But anyway, when he comes out, he's like cleaning up and getting ready, and he comes out and he asks everybody, he says, I just wanted to let you know that your bathroom's out of toilet paper. And to little does he know, they don't use toilet paper anymore. And everybody's making fun of him because he doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. Everybody's just laughing at him.
I
and he's
remember
like,
that. I remember that.
They quickly stop because he's this big brute of a guy, and he's just like staring at them like, okay, how much longer are we going to do this?
What did he do to the towels?
We don't know.
Oh,
Anyway, it
gross.
reminded me of that. Anyway, that's a funny scene. I feel that we should probably take a quick break before we get too much further because we're about to have to switch out some cards real quick. We'll be right back, and we'll finish these issues. All right, and we're back. And after this nice little comedic relief stuff of them trying to figure out the shower, we actually see Big Barda and Mr. Miracle standing in front of Orion, I guess, who is the High Father in command right now. He's sitting in his throne, and he's basically like addressing them and kind of annoyed at even in his presence, they're kind of like ignoring the formalities of how they should act. And it seems that his right-hand man, I can't remember the name of this new god. We see him in issue 3. Starlight or...
Light Ray?
Light Ray, that's what it is, yeah. So Light Ray appears to be kind of his right-hand man, the guy in his ear. And he's like kind of reminding them of the etiquette in a sort of passive-aggressive way. And Barda eventually kneels, and then she pulls Scott down to force him to kneel. But even when he's kneeling, he's still kind of staring up at him angrily, and then finally
I feel like Mitch Gerads just nailed
absolutely
this whole segment with like just showing how much disdain Scott has for Orion and his new seat. You know,
that's a good point. Mitch Gerads does that in several moments here, because even the panel in the funny when he's like, "Am I clean?"
Mm-hmm.
Like the facial expressions, very nuanced, but perfectly nail the emotion. That's a good call out, Drew. So he's sitting there, and he eventually kneels to his, I guess it's kind of his, not his brother, but they were swapped at birth. You know, the guy that was sitting where he should be sitting, and he eventually kneels, bows his head, and they start kind of calling him out, like not calling him out. High Father Orion is basically telling them, "Look, we've lost 200,000 men to this, even though you guys did some good stuff. The other part of this dark side is just wiping the floor with us." And that's namely because Granny Goodness, who is in the New God lore, the person who runs Darkseid's army. She's just an amazing general, apparently, and she also happens to be the one that raised Scott and Barda. So Orion says, like, "I was trying to be like my father. I was trying to keep emotion out of this, so I thought it'd be best if you two were not involved in a war with the person that raised you. But now I can understand that you probably hate her, and I want you to use that fuel and that hatred to go and kill Granny Goodness." If you've never heard of Granny Goodness, I realize that's kind of a silly name. But just remember that alliteration was key to naming a lot of characters back in the old days of the comics.
Yeah.
So they tell him, like, "Hey, this plan's been put in motion. You're leaving tomorrow, and you're going to go kill Granny Goodness." And that's where we step into the next scene.
Yeah. Can you look somebody up for me?
Yes.
Can you look up Metron, New God?
Yes, that's what I have questions.
So I gave gave away a little bit here, but basically, the next scene, Scott and Barda are sleeping, and all of a sudden you hear this, and this guy, he kind of makes me think of, if you've watched the Flash TV show, the season with the Thinker, he's like riding around on this flying wheelchair thing. Right. Kind of looks like this. Anyway, this guy pops in. Scot-free, you are not to know the face of God. Do you understand, Scot-free? You are not to know the face of God. And there's this guy, and
he's like screaming at them while they're in bed, and they're like not acknowledging him at all.
I mean, Scott's like, there's just so many times when he's just, you can tell he is, I wouldn't say aloof. He's just like, he's so deadpan with everything he does. He's just like, hey, Barda, Metron's here. Like later, there's this intense moment.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, do you want some milk? Or I'm going to go get a carrot. And he just like stops the flow of everything just to do this. But it's kind of that same vibe. She was like, oh, tell him it's late. We have to be up so early to kill Granny.
Yeah.
And then just like, Metron, I guess, gets pulled back in or whatever, and
I guess
they go back to sleep.
It doesn't say Boom anywhere, but it kind of feels like a little bit of a Boom tube-ish thing where he just pops in to heed this message of warning. Or
do you have anything about him?
I pulled up his Wikipedia.
You just want to, like, is there just a rough overview of like what his deal is?
He's a passive observer in the DC universe rather than active participant.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. It's kind of a watcher.
So
does it thing?
Is he actually one of the new gods? Is he kind of like a referee type guy or something?
It looks like he's sitting on that chair that the new gods are also known for. It's like this powerful chair weapon thing. I don't know much about it, but I believe it's in that DC Comics 101 New Gods thing. Okay. Yeah, I was curious just because this guy, he pulls up, he seems like urgent that Scott gets this message, but we don't actually, I don't have enough context of the character to know what he's warning him about, but Scott's not too worried about him.
I have a quote from him that says, I have no link with the old gods or new. I am something different, something that was unforeseen.
Okay. Cool. Well, maybe we'll get some more context with him eventually.
I imagine we will.
He at least is rooting for Scott, it seems, to be giving him a warning with such urgency. Going to the next page, we get this very intimate moment and this look at like what Orion is asking Scott and Barda to do, especially for Scott. And it shows Scott and Barda in their uniforms. They're about to go leave, and Barda calls a mother box to send a boom tube so they can go to Grady Goodness. And the boom tube opens up, and Scott like stops, and he says, I'm just going to read some of this. He says, Barda, all those years in the hurt of it, I know. Did you ever like her? Once I remember, in the X pit, and I'm stuttering because it's kind of in there, like he's clamoring over his words. He says, in the X pit, I was in the Judas cradle, hanging for days. I'd spilled my milk at breakfast or whatever. And then she came. I was supposed to be in longer, more days. And she came in early. And she took me down. And I was down, and she held me, I guess. She held me. I don't know. And they just walk through as he's telling this story. And Barda just responds, no, Scott, I never liked her. But it's this really powerful moment of him struggling with, even though he was traded as a little boy to this, essentially looks like hell, and raised by this evil war general that tortured him and did all these mean things, he was still raised by this person.
Have you ever, in all of this, had the feeling of Thor and Loki? Like this is almost like if Thor had been taken and left with the Frost Giants.
Yeah.
And like he stayed there. Loki grew up in his place.
He got to be
how things would be different.
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking that anytime I think about the two of them. I know it's not an exact parallel, but I feel like it's similar.
Well, that's a good thing also. I mean, the inverse of that, if we're looking at it from that world, is kind of how Loki feels about Odin. You know, has tried to take him over several times, but also when Odin dies, finally, in the MCU anyway, feels that hurt and that remorse because it was still like his father figure. So I think Scott's dealing with some of that here. Like Granny Goodness, despite all of her evil ways, has still raised him. And we get this real menacing thing of just Granny Goodness on the next panel staring off in the distance with her army behind her, very solemn face. And then you hear a boom, implying the boom tube opens, and she smiles and starts exclaiming, "My babies, oh my babies, come to Granny." And there's pleasantries, but she kind of very matter of fact gets them into dinner. That they've had some Jello. I'll let you talk about the disturbing stuff here.
Yeah, she's just like, I made you Jello. You know, you gotta have time. And meanwhile, she has this guy sitting at the table that
Stormforge.
Yeah, one of the new gods on the New Genesis side, and she has him tied up, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just starving him to death. I like to make people eat in front of him."
It's so silly.
Yeah, it doesn't bother you, does it? Meanwhile, Barda's just like, "No, I'm just so hungry," and
Right.
she's just shoveling her face, and he's like, "Stormforge is just." I was just like, well, that's troubling.
Yeah, Scott looks obviously disturbed. He's kind of just like, "Are we gonna talk about this guy who's naked and starving and tied up, watching me eat?"
And then the next page is one of my favorites. I think me and Alex both like it. You got to see it, you know. So
you can do some fun tracking.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll put my transform keyframe work to the test here.
Yeah,
but yeah, we just got Barda. It's later that night. Barda and Scott are sneaking out. They're snecking out.
Yes,
sneak, and it's this funny like improperly spelled thing, like describing over the 9-panel grid, like them moving their way through, because like the frame is basically just a zoom out of like a picture
camp,
and they just have it broken into 9 pieces portraying 9 different moments in time as they're like taking out guards and sneaking through things and running and kicking and fighting, and
they're basically just on their way to kill Granny, right?
Yeah. And they pop in and Granny's ready for them, and before they're able to do anything, Granny shoots Barda.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Quick, Scott, darling, quickly, follow, quick. I don't want to talk by the door. Who knows who may listen?" And then they pick that time to drop one of those Dark Side is panels.
Yeah.
Dark Side is listening.
This is a cool moment, too. I just want to stress, like, they sneak in, and Scott says, "Is she?" And Barda says, "Shh." And then, boom. Mm-hmm. As soon as she tries to quiet Scott, Barda gets shot, and Scott exclaims, "No." And then Granny's just holding her gun. Instead of shooting him, she's like, "Follow me." So it's kind of very confusing, like, what is going on right now? But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, they go on to say, like, there's no time, just listen. "Did Metron visit you last night?" And Scott's like, "I thought it was a dream."
Yeah.
He's like, "There's so much you need to know." I'm bad at reading, but I'll try.
Yeah.
Orion contacted me this morning, and then it says, Orion, this is Orion's word. "I had to warn you. I can't risk what might come. I sadly believe Scott and Barda intend to break the peace." So Orion thinks that Scott and Barda are going to screw things up. But this is Granny Goodness talking again. "Be alert," Orion said. "They'll do anything. And if they did anything," he said, "I was to repay their betrayal." So it's like somehow Granny Goodness and Orion are somewhat in cahoots.
Yeah. But also, Orion's the one that sent them to kill Granny Goodness. So he's kind of
all kinds of circles
backstabbing
of
a little bit, or at least sending someone into the lion's den knowingly.
Yeah. And then she says, "Orion wanted me to kill you. Oh, my sweet boy." You know, what he doesn't know, though, is that I have been a loyal friend to the High Father, the real High Father, the High Father who meant for you, his own child, to have his throne. It was me. I was the one who told him that Dark Side has the anti-life equation. I did it. I tried to save you. And Scott's just like, "Me? Why would you try to save me?" "You, Scott, you boy. I couldn't let Dark Side hurt my own precious boy." I'm going to skip ahead because it's a bunch of the same stuff. But then she's like, the prophecy, Scott. It's the prophecy that compels him. Dark Side can only die by the hands of his own son. Why would Orion, the prophecies, Orion is Dark Side's son. And then Granny Goodness is just like, "Is he, Scott? Is he? Or are you?"
you're getting a real treat if you're watching the YouTube video right now. Yeah. We're not going to tell you what it is if you're not, though.
Yeah. So, but before she's able to even say any more, like this is one of those moments where you're just like, no, can you just,
right?
Could you just hold off? Barda just smacks her in the head with a big club and just keeps doing it, and it is brutal.
Yeah, it's implying here that like Barda got up during all this and whacked Granny Goodness, and then just goes to town and succeeds in her mission and kills Granny Goodness before she can say any more to Scott.
And then they boom out of there.
Yeah. There's more of the classic comic book of find out next time on Mr. Miracle kind of stuff.
They keep going on and on about if you swallow the paranoid pill. I'm wondering if that's a deep pull from something a long time ago. I forgot to. Can you do that? Can you look up just like Mr. Miracle paranoid pill? See if there's anything about it. We could talk about it.
Yeah,
because it'll come up again later, I think.
I'm pulling up issue 3 just to kind of keep going with the flow of everything. So the issue just ends with Barda killing Granny Goodness after seemingly, even though she's been this kind of terrible person and is even fighting for Apokolips by leading their armies, seems to have maybe some sort of alliance to New Genesis, which is, I try to put myself in the context of having the information before that she's always been one of Darkseid's generals, but has secretly always been in cahoots with the enemy, I guess, or at least that's what it'll look like from Darkseid's perspective. So opening up on page 1 of issue 3, how
relevant do you think is this whole story?
It seems to be,
I mean, they kind of pull back. I was wondering when this was released. Was this released around Christmas?
It could have been.
Let me see.
I don't know.
I have to go back. You can, if you wanted to.
I'll just kind of surmise everything that's going on right now.
It says release. It was in like September.
Interesting.
So people might have been reading it starting to get in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, I guess so. Basically, we see these new gods from New Genesis all standing around this dead body of Granny Goodness, and they're like digging her up or picking up her remains. And over the top of this, we're seeing this conversation that Barda and Scott are having. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's basically this Christmas story. Kind of. Not the movie Christmas Story, but a Christmas story. You should go through and read this for the context. It's, again, just kind of pulling in a little bit more of the backstory of what the relationship was like that Scott had with Granny Goodness. And there's just over and over this story, and we get to this pretty intense 9-panel page where they're literally cutting off Granny's head. I will say, like, the art is in this distorted, almost like if you were reading a comic book with 3D glasses on and some... yes, they're showing her head being cut off, but it's also not the most violent thing I've ever seen in comic books. Not even close. Not
even in this series.
No way. Like, it's not something that you can. It's not too spicy, Sarah. I should say that. She always asks me is this one spicy. Yeah, so I have to let her know it's not too spicy. Anyway, they're just telling this story as this is going on, and then the head finally comes off, and we see Scott in bed just saying "Merry Christmas."
Yeah. And we do have that intro again that calls back. Did you find anything on the paranoid pill?
Yeah.
Here, let me read this real quick. This is just the intro, like starting off the comic. It's Dr. Bedlam calling, and he's going to spring a trap that is as simple and foolproof as the sinister as his own existence. Read what lies in store for Scott Free, super escape artist. Open the door of terror and drop the paranoid pill.
And that's all happening as Scott is going to grab some pills.
So did you anything?
Paranoid pill is, what you can gather from that is invented by Dr. Bedlam, and it causes symptoms similar to acute paranoid schizophrenia, in which others, especially those under the pill's effects, are identified as enemies.
Interesting.
So I wonder if they're just trying to make us are they telling us outright he's taking paranoid pills, or are they wanting us to think that, or is this just typical pain pills to go along with his wrists?
Right. I think that's probably what it is, and it might just be kind of playing on just the story in general. Anyway, he goes to sit down. Like, he woke up out of bed. He was thinking about them cutting off Granny Goodness's head, which had to be pretty... I mean, if I saw something like that in real life, it'd be traumatic. But imagine it being the person who raised you. You know, no matter what they were like. It would be pretty intense. So he's got to be in a pretty bad headspace right now. So he goes, he takes these pills. He's got a glass of milk, and he just goes and sits on his couch and sits there, not acknowledging anything. And then this voice from another panel just starts talking. And it says, Orion doesn't know I'm here, thank God. And you pan over.
We never heard or saw a boom. I wonder if this guy was literally just sitting on the couch the whole time waiting for him.
I think he was.
That's
that,
funny.
or it is kind of a, maybe there is more to the pill thing, and that's now he's seeing this person. But I don't.
But later we're going to find out he really is there. So.
Right, yeah. So Scott just basically claims to this guy, like, he says, I'm on leave from the war. And the guy who we learned his name is Forager says, how's that working out for you? And Scott's basically just like, look, man, I'm on leave. I've still got to make a living while I'm here. I've got an escape act tomorrow. I'm breaking out of something. And he offers him a drink. And then Forager, he says, 6.5 million of my people, the bugs, have already died in this war fighting for your people.
Earlier, I think it was earlier, they said like 250,000.
Right.
And Scott was amazed at that number.
Now we're 6.5 million.
Now it's 6.5 million. And yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And he's saying they were fighting for your people. Orion ordered their deaths, purposely ordered them to die before the gods. And Scott just says, I need more milk. And he's just being very matter of fact. This is like, he's describing all this stuff and he's not bothered by it at all. But they're just talking about how Darkseid sent all this stuff. Granny's been defeated. They sent in their queen, and he says, may she ever breed, and he had her executed as well. So the queen of this...
We think that he's all aloof about this, but if I noticed this last night whenever I was rescrimming, whenever he's pouring the milk, like he's obviously in deep thought thinking about this, because in the second panel of him pouring milk, he's like overflowing and just still pouring.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So he's just like, oh, okay. So maybe this is hitting him harder than he thinks, but he's just such a stone-faced type of guy, he doesn't want to let it on.
Right. Yeah. So this guy says, like, we sent our queen, which I guess is the person that it's kind of a bug colony thing. She was executed for treason, and her head is hanging next to Granny's. And then that is the first thing that gets him to, like, have some sort of genuine reaction. He's like, no, I would have heard. Someone would have told me. And then Forager's like, I'm telling you, as a general, you were admired by your bugs in command. They all respect you. You know, they'll follow you if you help us do this. But, like, we can't keep following Orion is what he's getting at. Like, all these bugs, all these people are dying. And he's basically there to plea, will you be our general? We'll follow you. We'll follow Mr. Miracle. The bugs will no longer follow Orion into this war. And as he's pleading for this boom tube opens up. And what's his name?
I think he's Light Ray.
Light Ray, that's what it is. I keep forgetting this guy's name. Light Ray, the guy that's the right-hand general, I guess, for High Father Orion, comes through and says, by the orders of the High Father, and he kills Forager right there sitting on the couch next to Scott. And Scott's like, I don't even know. Again, it's like this weird headspace. The art really helps portray this. I hope you're able to check this out on YouTube. He like leans over the couch where this guy was just zapped, and he's like, Jesus. And then he just takes a drink of his milk. Like, it's such a nonchalant thing to do. I don't know, maybe he's just so used to seeing some dark things that he's just, I don't know, he's numb to them in general, I guess. Anyway, he tells him, like, Mother Box, Boom Tube meaning New Genesis, and then Scott's like, what he said, Orion fighting that way, is it true? And the guy's like, basically, he was instructed not to speak to you. He violated that instruction, and he's accepted the consequences. And Scott's like, yeah, I get it, but was what he said true? And he leaves and says, don't be stupid, Scott, and just booms out of there.
And then Scott lifts up his milk and says, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Which, if you read this and you saw the whole story that we skipped over, would make more sense.
Yeah, for sure. You can take this next part.
So he's just laying back in bed, and he's just trying to explain to Barty. He's like, you missed Forager and Light Ray, and she's totally asleep.
Yeah.
And in the middle...
all these scenes, they're like in bed, and people just keep disturbing them.
Yeah. And in the middle, we have a Darkseid is panel.
Yeah.
And he even says that. After it says it, he's like, Darkseid is. Everyone says that, but what does it mean? I bet it doesn't mean anything. People just say it because it sounds cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice meta moment of, because I've had that. I was like, what is Darkseid is?
Yeah.
Do people just say that?
The next 2 pages,
Mm-hmm.
or 3 pages, are, I don't know, there's something about the art. I just absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
And there's one specific panel. Well, let me explain. So he's crawling up a big, like, fire tower type thing, or a crane.
Mm-hmm.
And every panel is just like him getting higher and higher. And then we get an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been dreading, what you see is not a superhero about to take flight, not an alien with magic science fiction wand. No, they're just basically giving the build up for him. Scott, in his Mr. Miracle outfit, is crawling into this crate that's hanging from a crane. And then it closes. And it says 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1, and then the cables release, and the crate just is falling through the air. And these panels right here,
Yeah.
like specifically, like the second or the third one,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the 6th one. I want that on my wall. I don't know. There's just something about it.
Yeah,
It's
they
just
are
a really
very cool
look.
minimalist art
Yeah.
almost.
And it's just falling, tumbling. And we have on the 9th panel, it crashes to the ground, and there's a bunch of people around. And then we turn the page, and
Scott and Bart are at lunch.
are just having lunch, on a street side cafe. And
We just assumed that the escape act for the day,
yeah,
it went
must
well.
have. I didn't see any red or green in the crash,
Yeah.
so he got out somehow. And they're just eating. I think it's fun to mention that Scott
Mhm.
is wearing a Batman T-shirt. So
Right.
that was just funny to me.
You brought this up earlier, what he says in the third
Yeah, he's
panel
like,
was talking about her. She's kind of poking fun at him performing. He called while you were performing.
yeah, he's like, Orion wants us back early. He called. And Scott says, I'm not performing. I'm actually escaping. It's not a trick.
Right.
And Scott, who are you arguing with? I know what you do. And anyway, they're talking. He's like, so he's invading. He's like, yeah. He said Darkseid stopped the invasion because he's weak. So this is a good time as any, and we'll each have our own armies again. It was all very Orion. And then they're sitting there, and there's a little bit more conversation. I was thinking about the next part.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just still kind of messed up with everything.
Well, yeah,
Like,
he's
just
talking about
something
everybody
wrong.
that's died recently.
Yeah.
He keeps bringing it up to Barda. Like, he's trying to say it's bothering him, but he can't quite get the words for it.
Yeah. And then as they're talking, this girl walks up. She's like, I'm sorry, but and basically she wants to take a picture. And Scott's about to ask Barda if she can take the picture. And she's like, no, I love her too. And takes this big old selfie. And I don't know. It's just a fun picture. It's interesting to think that this exists in this world. And like it has a picture. And Scott's like, did we get it? And then the last one is her Instagram post.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny of the two of them. And then this next part, I guess we are back in New Genesis.
Because he said he wanted them back.
And so the Highfather now has like a carnival barker announcing guy for himself. Is that what this is?
It kind of looks like that, yeah. And he's talking in the same sense of the guy that's been narrating like the find out next time, or the one that's always announcing Scott for his acts.
Like you normally see in a throne room, there'll be somebody who's like, and now the venerable Torrance from the high country, to see you. And but in this case, he's just saying the funky Flashman proudly presents the X-Pit Executioner, the Granny Goddess Gutter, everyone's favorite escape artist, the sensational Scott Free, Mr. Miracle. And then Mr. Miracle's just like popped out, and he was like, what is this?
Yeah. It is confusing, just
and
the
then,
context of it.
He's like, that's your cute kid. Get out there and wow him. But anyway, so that's basically just for a conversation between Orion and Scott.
Yeah.
And she said, where's General Barda? And Scott's like, she's prepping the army. And she's like, shouldn't you be prepping the army? He's like, Father said that Darkseid has the anti-life equation. Okay, and I've been thinking maybe it's inside me. Maybe that's what made me cut myself. What I need to know, want to know. I'm not trying to say anything, okay? I'm not. But do you know? Have you? Orion, I guess, do you see it? Or is it inside of you? And then Orion, he's just like staring, and he turns and he's like, have you seen the face of God? Which is the callback to the Metron thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Orion just turns and punches him. It's just like that one from issue 1.
Yeah, he's
like,
punched
stand,
a lot.
Stand.
Yeah.
And he just punches him, and he's like, I asked you a question, I think after all this time, you'd know that to have the courtesy to respond to your High Father. And Scott's like, just stop. And he's finally like, have you seen the face of God? And just absolutely like obliterates this guy.
Yeah, he's beating the crap out of him.
Stomping him in the face. And he's like, I have, Scott. I've witnessed the divine. It helped me, brother. It will help you. Look at me, brother. And Scott's like, you're not my brother. He's like, see me. This is the face of God. This is the face of God. And it keeps getting more and more distorted. And every once in a while, like, it looks like they've laid Darkseid's face on top of him. And yeah, and the closing jaws of death. How will he get out? And that's how it ends. So I think we're going to have to take a quick break. What perfect timing. And we'll be back.
Yeah. All right, we're going to give our closing thoughts on these 2 issues, and then we'll jump into our lightning round of trivia. Drew, what did you think of these 2 issues?
I mean, it's just, we're still setting it up, setting up the dominoes. I'm just like, okay, what is the deal? We've had the Granny Goodness, like, I wish she could have just spoken for 30 more seconds, talking about.
She was about to spill the beans.
Whose father, who is your father,
Mm-hmm.
So, that makes me wonder. And I have read a little bit ahead, so I know some stuff that's about to go down. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm still reserving judgment, but there's still a lot to go on.
Yeah. I will say, if you're following along with us, please go back, join our Discord, or you don't even have to join the Discord. Go Google the DC Comics 101 New Gods. This is everything you need to know about the New Gods to follow along. It helped me so much just having some context of who these people were. I'm enjoying this much more, being able to see the art and go through it several times. So I hope that if you're just listening and you haven't been reading, that you're going to hang on a little bit longer. I feel like it could be confusing without much context of just all these.
Yeah. I've sat back a few times like, all right, if I were just listening, would I be able to follow this story? I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to separate myself like that because I've read it twice. Right. So yeah, I hope we're not making it too hard.
Yeah, it's worth going out of your way to find these, or if you want to go find the floppies, I'm sure that this would not be that hard. Actually, I know it wouldn't be that hard. Get on Amazon or go to your local comic book shop if you have a nice one, and they'll for sure have at least a trade of this. It's just 12 issues. It's worth it. But I'm intrigued by it. I like the story. I like the depth of the characters that we're getting into. Like, as much as going on, like this massive war of gods. We're seeing this very humane, almost tragic and complex character development of Scott Free and what he's gone through and what this all means through his lens. And I'm excited to see where it goes from there. Do you have any thoughts? You might be able to answer this, Tori. Is it confusing not having read or having a bunch of context for the characters, or are you just kind of like, what is going on right now?
I mean, I missed the first issue also, so
right.
I am a little lost.
We spoiled the crap out of it for you. That's fine. I think after reading it, you'll have a little more context of what's going on.
Okay.
But I'm excited to see where it wraps up. I mean, this was an Eisner-winning comic book for a reason, I think.
And we've been.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you go ahead.
This came out in 1971, or when did this come out?
That's probably the original one. This one's pretty new.
Oh, okay.
I think this one's like 2017 or something.
Like
that. Okay. Yeah. Never mind.
Maybe even newer than that. I'm not sure.
I cut just because that paranoid pill said it made its first appearance.
Well, this run is from that, but yeah, Mr. Miracle's been around since back then.
So it made its first appearance in a Mr. Miracle run.
That actually that is what I was expecting. Like, I had a feeling, like the way that I was talking and the paranoid pill, I felt like they were pulling it from one of the earlier things. So that's good to know.
I mean, we have confirmation of that. Mitch Gerads tweeted at me for one of those questions, the artist, and he was like, yeah, the majority of everything we we pulled from the OG Kirby Mr. Miracle run. So I was asking him on Twitter, you know what's cool, that if you ask the comic book guys or gals and everybody that writes these comic books, a handful of times they've responded to me like with just genuine questions. Don't get on there and just pester them like, hey man, like this and you'll make my day. But I had a genuine question of like, I wanted some more context. I was like, what did you base a lot of this off of, and what should I read, or any recommendations you have? And yeah, Mitch Gerads actually responded, and Tom King, the writer, actually liked his response. So I felt
so cool.
I felt seen.
Yeah, I've been hearing that, like something about the comics community. Like if I tried to tweet at Stephen King once, and he's too big.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
He probably just have mentions turned off. Like even like musicians, artists, like there's a whole lot of creative communities that won't even, like, you're not even a gnat on their radar.
Right.
But like for some reason the comics community, it's small still.
Yeah.
And
Just small enough to where there's a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance. So yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was happy about it. Day made. Cool. Any other closing thoughts on issues 2 and 3 of Mr. Miracle?
I was going to say, we're still in debate on just how much of this run we're going to cover.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I love this so much, you gotta do the whole thing. Reach out, let us know. We might do the whole thing. We might just do half of it. I don't know. We're still trying to decide.
Yeah, there are
just
a couple
let you know.
natural points of maybe taking an off ramp before we get all the way to the end. If you guys want
to spur you guys on to check it out yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll figure that out soon. All right, Drew, you ready for some trivia?
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight over to our lightning round trivia, where the questions are faster than Scott Free's escape acts. Ooh. Did I say that last time, actually?
I don't know.
No, I think I said faster than a boom tube.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I just wasn't sure how I was going to say that last one. But yeah, he's really quick.
Yeah.
So
I'll go first just because mine's a little bit, but I'm asking this more just because I think this is going to be cool information for everybody to have. Which is also probably light spoilers for other things this character has been in. So my question is about Granny Goodness. Granny Goodness, I'm going to actually do this in the style of Jeopardy. So you'll have to say who is for this. Granny Goodness impersonated this Olympian god and manipulated the Amazons into waging war on the United States. You can put some Jeopardy music in here.
I don't know if I can, actually. Because, a couple episodes, I made the comment about the shags. I got more and more worried about putting it in there, so I just cut it out of the episode.
Just put
instead of talking about, because I didn't want to get sued. Because I did look, there was a whole thing about, like, yeah, some people say you can use 6 seconds. That's not true.
Is it not?
Like, that's what some lawyer said. So I was just like, better safe than sorry. I don't actually know. If this were Jeopardy, I probably wouldn't be buzzing in unless I happened to land on it and it was a daily double type thing.
Yeah,
where I have to answer.
Well, I mean, it is just an Olympian god, so if you know any of those, you can just take a swing at.
I was just trying to think of an Olympian god that made me feel like that felt like had similarities to Granny Goodness, and I don't know if it needs to. But that's where my mind was going, and I have no idea. So I'm just going to say Medusa.
Final answer.
Oh, excuse me. Who is Medusa?
Okay,
yeah, that's what I figured.
It is actually Athena, which would kind of make sense in the context of manipulating the Amazons. Who would?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Athena
if I stepped back and thought.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this little blurb right here because it's kind of cool where I got this question. So it says, in the aftermath of the Infinite Crisis, Granny Goodness posed as the Olympian goddess Athena and manipulated the Amazons into waging war on the United States. Granny continued to pose as Athena and using Amazon centers to recruit new female fighters because she's in charge of the female Furies. That's her big army. So she's recruiting Amazons, these amazing warriors, to be in the female Furies. And while also holding the gods of Olympus prisoner on Apokolips. So it gives you more context of just how powerful Granny Goodness is. She's holding all these gods hostage. Eventually, her manipulations and disguise was uncovered in front of her Amazon trainees by Hippolyta, Mary Marvel, Holly Robinson, and Harley Quinn, which forced her to flee back to Apokolips after the Olympian gods were freed by Mary Marvel. And the other ladies I mentioned, Granny was attacked and killed by Infinity Man.
Wow.
Yeah. But just wanted to give a little more context.
Infinity Man, we saw him recently. There was that was my question last for
Oh, you did ask me.
who was Infinity? I've already forgotten. I asked the question.
Yeah,
But
can't remember.
he's relevant to this in some way.
Yeah. To you,
All right.
my lord.
So my question was based on a conversation we had earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to figure out the name of Darkseid's little minions. So
Oh,
do you have a
no.
guess for what they are called?
I'll
tell, or if you don't have one, I'll give you the first letter. Maybe that'll help.
Sure.
P.
Okay, well, that eliminated at least the answer I was going to say.
Okay.
The name?
They were given this name whenever they showed up in Super Friends,
Wow.
and it just kind of stuck.
Interesting.
But they made their debut in New Gods #1.
Oh, okay.
So they've been around forever.
Right. Been around for a while. Show up Super Friends.
They looked a
Starts
lot
with P.
different in the New Gods #1. They just look like white dudes with green wings and goggles.
Interesting.
But
they
they-
still kind of
they-
have some of that.
Yeah, but they've been manipulated over time.
I feel like it's going to be a PH, a tricky thing.
Oh,
It's-
sorry. I just
Oh, you just
gave
told
that
me
away.
no. Okay, well, that's helping more. The pesticides.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's not right.
I don't have
Do you happen to have a guess, Torrance?
The peepees?
That has to be
I like
right.
that one too. No,
Huh.
they're called parademons.
Parademons.
Oh, I did know that.
That
Yeah.
sounds like that was mentioned in Justice League.
Probably. Yeah.
I can hear Ben Affleck's
There's all
voice
kinds of
saying
stuff
that.
about them. But yeah, apparently like
All right.
Darkseid had like genetically manipulated them and stuff over time in labs and whatnot. But
All
yeah,
right.
they've been around. And
Well, now I know those are parademons.
there have been apparently some in various stories who have, shown up elsewhere, like on their own, just in the DC
Interesting.
proper.
Cool.
So yeah.
No points for us. Do you have a question today, sir?
I do. It's a round of name that regular villain.
Cool.
In the has nothing to do with comics. It just has to do with what we were talking about today.
Okay.
In the 1993 film Demolition Man, who was originally considered for the role of the villain?
The original. So who was considered to play Simon Phoenix?
Yes.
Hmm.
Pretty big name.
I'm
And it would have
going.
been a wild choice.
Drew,
All right.
I'm going to say Bill Murray. I know that
Alex?
wasn't right.
I feel like I have a legitimate guess.
'Cause I've got
on
no
this.
idea.
Hold on, I'm thinking about it for a second. We got time for thinking.
We have 18 minutes before my camera shuts off.
I'm gonna say Eddie Murphy.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Guess it wasn't it.
Now the answer is Jackie Chan.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but Chan turned it down because he didn't want to play a villain.
Interesting. Has he ever played a villain?
I was thinking about that afterwards. I don't think
He should
ever
give it a
has.
go. He'd probably be great.
You think so? He's just too nice.
Well, he can act.
Can
No.
he?
His resume would say so.
He can kick butt in hilarious ways, but
Hey.
I don't know if acting is really his strong suit.
Yeah. Well, I'd watch it.
Oh yeah, I would too.
Yeah. All right. No points today, which means Drew is still in the lead, 1-0.
Something is wrong. I think I won the last one. I'm winning this one.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
I don't know. We're gonna.
Maybe my
gonna
questions
figure
are
this
too
out.
hard.
Next time, I'm asking the mother box,
But that was the answer to the first one.
but I'm asking for help.
Oh,
This is
okay.
my mother box, so it means I'm gurgling it.
Speaking of trivia, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, those questions are whack. I've got questions. Well, then you need to join our Discord because there's a whole thread on there for you to contribute questions,
Yep.
trivia questions, and you can type it in, you type the answer, and then you mark the answer as a spoiler, so that we'll just not look at it. And then one of these days when we get enough questions, maybe we'll just have a trivia-sode and Torrance can
That
just
would be
like
cool.
read all these questions off for us. And
Yeah.
it'd be great.
That'd be really awesome.
So far, the only question was the sample one that I put on there.
And you know the answer to that
Yeah,
one.
I know the answer to that one. So, but yeah, so join our Discord. There's going to be a link somewhere because we got conversations about DC Comics, Marvel Comics, indie comics, random hobbies, what you've been reading, yo.
Show announcements.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Soon to be Alex and Drew read the new 52.
That's right. So we'd love you to get on there. Our community is growing, and we really want you to join Discord because we got something special coming later in a couple months.
Yeah.
That you'll have to be on Discord to be a part of.
Yep.
So I'm not going to say anything else. But yeah,
Drew, where can they find you on social media?
you can find me at Drew Morris Comp on Twitter and Drew Morris Composer elsewhere. I just recently revamped my website, so check out my website, drewmorrismusic.com, including a commercial that Alex filmed for me for my music composition business. So go. You can see that in its entirety at drewmorrismusic.com. What about you, Alex?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Alex Wayne Miller. Wayne is Wayne, just like Bruce Wayne, who is Batman, who Scott Free was wearing a shirt of today on today's issue. Tori, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter if you want. I'm not going to tell you how.
Yeah, gurgle it. Drew, what about the two-man accounts?
I was just going to look up to see if we had any reviews while I was doing this, but I'll do this instead.
Look it up.
We are on Twitter at 2Man Comic Book with the number 2. You can find us on Instagram or Facebook, 2Man Comic Book Club, where we occasionally go live as we're setting up. We forgot to do that today, but that's okay. Check out our blog, 2mancomicbookclub.blogspot.com. Shoot us an email, 2mancomicbookclub@gmail.com. Call the 2Man Comic Book Club hotline at 66-2ManFan8. Have you been here since we got a phone number?
No.
Yeah, we set up a Google number,
nice.
66-2ManFan8, so people can call in and just leave a message for us. So maybe it'll make it a little bit easier next time we do a mailbag episode.
Yeah.
I feel like there was something else. Join our Discord. Find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe to us. If you're standing next to somebody, pick up their phone. Download a podcast thing. If they don't have one, subscribe to us. Open up YouTube. Subscribe to us.
Mm-hmm. Do all the stuff. Share the love, y'all. It's the summer, for Pete's sake.
Live mass.
That's all I got.
All right.
Bye.
Taco Bell is.
Two-Man Comic Book Club podcast is hosted by Alex Miller and Drew Morris. Our graphic and logo work is done by Tessa Price, and our original compositions and theme music were composed by Drew Morris. I felt
that wasn't right. That wasn't right.